What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Corporate Bartender. Happy New Year! Let's get 2025 off to a rip-roaring start, shall we? Today we've got Lior Arussy on the program. Don't know Lior? Well, you're in for a treat. You ever wonder why some people come through challenges stronger and more successful, while for others it's a rough road? Lior, who's done this a bunch of times, believes that the critical factor determining failure or success lies in the story people craft around their experiences. In his new book, Dare to Author, Take Charge of the Narrative of Your Life, he provides a reality check and a toolkit for taking charge of your life story, focusing on the power you possess and using it to build the career and life you want. There are so many golden nuggets in this one, you're going to want to take a lot of notes, so go get the good pen. This conversation was phenomenal, and it was one of my favorites of 2024. And TCB Nation, you know what I think. I think you're going to dig it. So buckle up, TCBers, grab your favorite cocktail, and let's get right on into it with Lior Arussy on today's TCB.
Welcome to SkyTeam's The Corporate Bartender, where we gather some of the best HR and people leaders to discuss what's happening on the people side of business. Now pull up a stool, belly up to the bar, and join us for The Corporate Bartender.
Welcome, everybody. You know what it is. It's Wednesday. It's your favorite day and mine, and that means it's Corporate Bartender Day. Today is the 20th of November, 2024. 2024 is almost over. We are rounding third and heading home. This is the 210th time that we've gathered this really awesome group of people. Today, I'm excited. We have a guest. He is the person in your Brady Bunch view that you do not recognize. His name is Lior Arussy, and he is the author of a book called Dare to Author, Take Charge of the Narrative of Your Life. So we're going to get into his thoughts on how to take charge of your life. But before we do, just a little housekeeping. The travel gods and holiday gods have spoken. So TCB will be dark November 27th. TCB will be delivered from the road until December 2nd. We'll be dark on the 11th, the 25th, and January 1st for those holidays that you see graphically represented by my festive emojis.
Nice work. I like the pairings.
Thanks. I worked hard on that. We have a guest coming up on the 4th of December. Her name is Nada Sanders, and she's the author of a book called The Hugh Machine, AI, Human Virtues, and the Super Intelligent Enterprise, 2nd edition. So I'm looking forward to that. AI is a topic that comes up all the time these days, and how to interface with it and what are the people implications of that. That's a big deal. So looking forward to having Nada Sanders on the show on the 4th of December. But today is all about this guy. This guy, Lior, not liar. People mispronounce his name, and we were instructed that is not how you pronounce it. It's like Dior with an L. So Lior Arussy, the author of this book that you see on your screen, Dare to Author, Take Charge of the Narrative of Your Life, is our guest today. So let's give him a warm TCB welcome, shall we? See, Lior, we dance people onto the show.
Wow.
That's how we get it going.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure. I feel like I'm in a privilege cult here, more than just
Ooh, a cult. We haven't been called that before.
I mean, we just got a promotion, I think. That's
in the most positive way I'm saying it. Okay?
That's great.
Oh, so Lior, we always like to start with a little bit of a backstory, origin story type of question. So I imagine that when you were a child, you did not say, I'm going to set out to be the author of this book and interface with people like I do today. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got here to be with us today.
So you're correct. In fact, even if I was attempting to have such a dream, I was told in so many ways by my teachers that I should really kind of aim low because high school is maybe not what's in my cards. And maybe I should just find a job like a mechanic or something like that. But I grew up in a neighborhood in which we were not in, let's just call it the best of high schools. Then the teachers, by the way, believe that they have done so in order to really save us from embarrassment of sending us to a high school. And then, God forbid, we will find ourselves in a different, in an embarrassing way. In any event, let's fast forward because this is, and I'm deliberately not mentioning the location because I want to respect my friends who grew up in the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
Graduated with undergrad and an MBA from Case Western Reserve in Cleveland. I was involved in two technology startups, one that went public and did very well, one that was equally unsuccessful. From there, headed
So you
to
balanced out. It's a net zero with the
Oh,
startups.
absolutely, absolutely. But at least the first one helped pay for the college loans. So we got that one out of the way. Spent some time at HP. I was the head of internet security out of Cupertino, California. We were actually the first one to launch online banking because we solved the security problem associated with that. Moved to the East Coast for family reasons, and then I was involved with a company called NICE, which is the leading one for customer service technology, call centers, and so on and so forth. And in 2003, I started my own company, Strativity, a consulting business that specializes in customer centricity and business transformation. We grew to about 150 consultants with offices in Australia, Canada, London, and New York. We were privileged to be involved in over 400 transformations with some leading brands, anywhere from Walmart to Mercedes-Benz, Delta Airlines, the Philharmonic of LA, the Metropolitan Museum of Arts, a lot in healthcare, by the way, with Biogen, Novo Nordisk, Fresenius, and many others. And wrote about 10 books. This is my 10th. And 2018, I sold the business and been there for about 2 years to usher the transition. And since then, I'm splitting my time between writing, speaking, a little bit of consulting, and a lot of family time. I have 5 children and 5 grandchildren.
Wow, congratulations. I'm going to give the applause for that.
Thank you.
That is a long and storied career.
Thank you.
10 books. I mean, Ruby and I have been on the book train. We've written 1 together. Our business partner has written 3. Writing a book is a weird experience. We learn a lot about the publishing industry in our, first dalliance with it. It's not what you think it is. If you're on the outside, people who say, "Oh, I'm going to write that great American novel or write my book." I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure you really want to do that? So you've been to the well a bunch of times. What was the impetus for this one? Dare to author. What got you started on this?
This probably falls in the weirdest of all circumstances of writing a book. So I was preparing a presentation on innovation prioritization for an insurance company in the US. 30 days before the presentation, I was scheduled to meet the CEO and a Zoom call and review the slides in preparation for the presentation. I've done work with this company in the past. I have a good relation with the CEO. Him and a bunch of executives are going on the call. I'm supposed to show them my slides, common thing. And he goes on the call and says, "Lior, I'm changing the topic."
Oh, okay.
And I said, "What's the topic?" He said, "The topic is your next book." I'm like, "Ben, there's no next book." "Lior, there is a next book and I want you to come talk about it." And I'm like, "There is no next book." And we're going back and forth. And I'm like, "Ben, it's 30 days from the presentation. Please, this is not the time for your jokes." And he's like, "It's not a joke. You're not going to present this. You're going to present your next book." I said, "Here's what I'm going to do, Ben. I'm going to bring Winnie the Pooh and I'm going to read it really slowly to fill in 90 minutes. And that's going to be my new book." And he said, "You know what, Lior? If you're going to read me Winnie the Pooh, I'm sure I'm going to learn something new." And hang up. And I'm looking at the other executives just like this. I'm like, "Guys, what the heck?" And they were like looking at me like, "We had no idea."
Oh, how funny.
So
Thanks, Ben.
2 weeks prior, I published an article called "Who Author Your Life Story? Who Owns Your Life Story?" So I sent it to him and said, look, Ben, this is the closest thing to new content that I have. If that's interesting for you, I'll develop it. And he said, this is exactly what I want you to do. And within 30 days, I had to create a 90 minutes brand new topic. And that was the impetus for this book. So I start the book by saying, this is not a book I wanted to write. Ben knew about it before I did, and we have to give him credit for that.
It's amazing.
I love it. That's the most interesting book origin story I think we've heard on this show.
Thank you.
So I love it. Who owns your life story? I mean, this is a thing that we in HR, we talk about this all the time about people's career arcs and how they grow and, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up kind of thing. This concept of authoring is a really active verb. I like it. So tell us, what is authoring? What does that mean?
Okay. So I define in the book that authoring your life story is the process or the discipline of converting past experiences into future strength and into future resilience. And let me explain a little bit more. So aside from the story with Ben, I've had the privilege of being involved in over 400 corporate transformations, some very, very large with tens of thousands of employees. And the common perception in the change business is that people are resisting change because they're afraid of the future. We found out that they're actually struggling with the past. Here's what we found out and why this book was born. When we hear the word change, in our minds as human beings, we equate it to a negative judgment on our past performance. So if we tell someone we're moving to SAP, well, I was the Excel person, for 10 years, I was the Excel person. What do you mean? Excel is my identity. So you're going to tell me that the 10 years of Excel was a mistake? Do you want me to write them off? These are 10 years of my life. That was my identity. So we learned a couple of things. We learned that we cannot move people or activate them moving forward until we help them close that chapter. And second, we need to treat this chapter as an evolution, not a departure from the past. So a lot of our work was involved with writing the previous chapter so we can write the next chapter. Okay, the book actually is kind of dancing between the personal and the professional lives, and a lot of my examples are from both, because this is what we saw. We saw people struggling, becoming victims to future changes because they have no tools to face them. So I know that you guys were kind of born during COVID, so let's visit that for a second, okay? Clients called me during COVID and said, Lior, we're paralyzed. We don't know what to do. And I said, let's talk about your emotions. And they said, it is unprecedented. We have never experienced something like this. And I said, I understand that factually it's correct, but emotionally it's problematic because you're tapping into the helplessness and the lack of skills. You're basically saying, I have no skills and I have. So I said, you know what, let's do an exercise. Let's visit the last time that you faced an unprecedented event. And let's author that chapter because you passed that already. And for many people, it was 2008, 2009. So we went there and we did an exercise. We workshopped for about an hour and a half based on a story narrative. What was the threat? Who was the villain? Who was the victim? Who was the hero? What was the turning point? What did you learn? Which values came to life? Which values were demolished? What are your new insights? What did you decide you'll never do again? And when we finished writing that chapter, we were able to conclude, this is how I'm going to approach unprecedented events. This is my superpower. These are the things I need to watch for. These are my values, etc., etc. I said, now let's take this toolkit and come to COVID. So actually in the book, there's a full chapter that allows the reader to do the same thing for their COVID experience because there are a lot of prompt questions following the same exact pattern. So my argument is we often feel helpless in light of new challenges because we haven't converted our past experiences into future strength and into future tools.
I love that. And sort of closing off that prior chapter, it made me think of when we do change work at SkyTeam with clients, a lot of times we roll in William Bridges's change curve, right, from transitions. Been around for a long time. But it's interesting because sometimes when people see that, they're surprised to learn that change doesn't start with the beginning. It starts with the ending. It starts with the, like you said, I was the Excel guy for 10 years. That was my life. That's wrapped up in my identity. People have to mourn the loss of that thing. They have to go through that ending. So I love the exercise of authoring the sort of close to that chapter so that you can write the new one. You also said the word superpower, which is one of Ruby's favorite words.
Okay.
And, you urge people to do this superpower thing. But in these events, like if I'm Johnny Excel guy, I certainly don't feel powerful in that moment. So how do I, as that person who's making that transition from Excel to SAP or whatever the new system is, how do I empower myself and start to feel like I've got some value to add here?
So I'm going to give you 2-layer answer. And if I'll forget the second layer, please remind me to talk about the gratitude. Okay?
Okay.
So let's start with the first one. Let me give you a scenario. Okay, we work with a bank. They shut down a lot of branches. They shut down cashiers. And they found out that the bankers are fighting them back and are telling customers not to use the digital tools. Literally telling them, please don't use the digital tools. And I remember sitting there in a focus group with bankers. And I said, what's going on? And one of them said to me, look, if you're willing to sign, guarantee me my job, I'm willing to use the new app. If not, I'm not going to collaborate. And I said, You know what? I'm willing to sign and guarantee you that you won't have your job if you won't use the app. But let's now have a conversation about it. And she said to me, I've dedicated my life to these customers. I've been the cashier and nobody appreciates it. And I said, you know what? Let's do a simple exercise. Let's split the purpose of your work from the tools that you're using.
Okay.
Okay? You've been here for 25 years, and when you started, you probably got a bunch of abacus in which you helped customers. And then one day, you got this calculator with the strip of paper. Remember those? And then the next time, they've given you a laptop, a desktop, and now they're giving you an iPad. Here's the thing. Your mission to help this father finance his daughter's wedding so she'll tell him he's the best father in the world, this mission doesn't end. Your purpose continues. What is changing are the tools. So when we split the purpose from the tools, create continuity between the past and the future, we're opening up the human spirit to accept new tools to get them. So don't talk in terms of change and departure. Talk in terms of what continues, what evolves, and then the tools becomes just what they are, the tools. So if you equated yourself with a spreadsheet, you equated yourself with the tool, not with your purpose. So let's go back to what the tool served. This continues, and the rest will evolve. Now, in my book, I make the following assertion. If you do not author your life story, it will be authored for you. And unfortunately, it will be authored by prejudice and biases that you are going to hate. Imposter syndrome is one of the most popular chapters there, but I want to talk about another one, and that is the gratitude denial syndrome. So I remember doing a performance evaluation for one of my employees, and she was awesome. And I was giving her a lot of compliments, reviewing all the things that I loved and asked her to do more of that. And I noticed that the more I give her positive feedback, she's getting more and more stressed and more anxious. So I stopped and I said, Stacy, what's going on? And she said, can you just go to the punchline and tell me what's bad? Because clearly, the more you're going to tell me good things, you're trying to cover for that
the sandwich.
Yeah.
The sandwich, yeah.
For the 5 times and so on. And I said, Stacy, I don't have a bad things. I'm really happy. And it made me kind of think about it a little bit deeper. And I think we're all doing this. Somebody will come and give you a compliment. You'll either downplay it, dismiss it, or something like that. But here's what my point, which is connecting to the superpower as well. When we downplay or deny those, we're robbing ourselves from the future strength, because those compliments are pointing out to our superpower. They're helping us understand the impact that we make on other people, which is our superpower. And when we downplay them, we show up to the next unprecedented challenge empty.
Oh,
These are the energy, the refuel that we need. And the gratitude denial syndrome is an example of how we rob ourselves from the ability to be strong and resilient for the next challenge.
we are dropping truth bombs all over the place here. Two comments real quick, and I know Lori has something to say. The idea of separating your purpose from the tools, I've never heard change readiness articulated that way, and my mind is kind of blown by that. Like, that is amazing.
Next is now my past book. You can read it. You can read all about it there.
So I love that. And what you just said about the gratitude denial syndrome, I love, a new acronym, GDS, is going in my vernacular.
Yeah, let's do that.
I've never heard this explained the way you just explained it. I've heard it explained as when you downplay those comments, you're diminishing the commentor, right? You're making the person that gives you that compliment less than.
Yeah.
What you just said is, by doing so, I mean, you may be doing that as well, but you are robbing yourself of future strength. And that blew my mind too. So,
and
wow.
Eric, let's build it. Let's build on it, because we do a lot of customer satisfaction studies, and it's the same pattern. The CEO is like, don't tell me about the good things. Tell me about what's wrong. And I'm like, stop. Why are you giving more agency to people who complain over the people who stop to tell you something positive? Why are you giving agency to them? And I'll take it a step further. Okay? I've got 5 children. If there's one thing that I always had a conflict with their teachers, is the following. We'll go to parent-teacher conference. Let's imagine I'm going to the history teacher and he's saying, well, your daughter is a D- in history. We need to work on it. My response is, no, we won't.
Oh.
And he's like, what? I said, let me analyze it for you. If she's D- in history, one of 2 possible root causes. You're not a great teacher, or she hates the subject. Let's assume it's the latter, not the former, okay? Now, I just came from the math teacher who told me that my daughter is B+ in math. So where should I put my efforts?
Yes.
On math or on history? Should I get her to a D+, or should I get her to an A+ in math? Because at the end of the day, when you get positive feedback, it points towards your superpower. None of us is going to be perfect in everything. Sure. We need to accept that. For superpowers, we got shadows. Shadows is the opposite, and goes to the other direction. But my point is, strengthen your core. If you want to face the next unplanned event of your life, professionally or personally, AI is threatening your life, whatever it is, man, you've got to refuel, and you've got to know where your core is. This is the essence of authoring your life story. Because when you author it, you're ready for the future. And when you're not, you're a victim to the future.
That idea of focusing on your strengths, that's the whole concept of that strengths finder, right? The whole assessment of, there's all these things. And if empathy is the worst thing on your list, good to be aware of, because you might need to mitigate that in certain situations. Absolutely. But don't start going to deep seminars on building empathy, but it's just not going to be who you are. And you're going to be wasting all of this effort to get a centimeter better versus put that effort into your top 10 superpower, right?
But Lori, I agree. And in the book, I do talk about different styles of language and different styles of words. So you'll be minded about how you approach certain situations. Are you empathetic? Are you results oriented? Are you critical? And there are different styles. But there's one style that I will not forgive. And that one I do want to put on the table here. Cynicism. Cynicism is cancer. I was in a workshop with a major bank where I actually asked one of the vice presidents to leave the room and not come back. And he looked at me and he said, why? I said, because you're cynical. He said, this is my style. I'm a cynical guy. I said, have you seen one successful entrepreneur who said that they owe their success to cynicism? That that's how they build their business? Let me tell you what cynicism is. Cynicism is your quick relief of your frustration, but what it does is spread the following message to everyone else. Why bother? nothing's ever going to happen. Nothing is ever going to improve. I cannot have you spew this to everyone else here. And let me make it very clear to you. Cynicism is not a tool to build. Cynicism is a destruction bulldozer. And the more you allow it in your company, the more it's going to be contagious, and other people are going to speak that way. And then don't expect people to rise up. Don't expect people to show up. They will become victims of processes as opposed to impact creators who are rising up above the processes and are making human impact.
And sometimes people try to put cynicism and skepticism in the same bucket, and they're different things. You can be skeptical of things without being cynical.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way to know that is the nature of your comment. Is that a productive comment or is that a dismissive comment?
Right.
There are comments in which you're part of the solution, you're just offering an alternative.
Right.
And there are comments which are all, and I'll give you one more example, which is another manifestation of the cynics. So you all been to corporate meetings. Imagine you're trying to launch a new strategy. The guys did the research. They are presenting the research. The conclusions are very clear. Everybody is ready. And then all of a sudden, Brian, who's sitting all the way in the back, is saying, I'm all in, but if you can just run the numbers one more way, I'd love to look at the numbers in the following lenses. So can you compare single mother families with a child under the age of 5 from northern Arkansas with Hispanic families with over 5 children from Aventura, Florida? I just want to see how that's going to work. And in the name of Kumbaya, we're going to throw another 3 months of analysis, and we're going to come back and the numbers are exactly the same, right? And we're about to decide, and then boom, Brian's like, excellent work. I'm almost all in. But if we can just run the numbers with seniors who retired from 73 to 85 who live in Amarillo, Texas, and I'd like to see how does it work against a sample size of Gen Z who lives in Calabasas, California, and are earning under $30,000. And no one in the company will say, Brian, stop.
Shut up.
Stop it, Brian.
Brian,
Stop it,
stop.
Brian.
What are you doing?
Right.
And that's an example of a culture that's full of cynicism, and that's another manifestation of cynicism. Brian is not there to progress the agenda. Brian is there to stop the agenda because Brian feels that he's a victim of coming change.
If he would only separate his purpose from the tools, Brian could get over it.
Correct. Because Brian will see that we're not dismissing his past work. We're respecting it. We're building on it. And in fact, by providing additional tools, we're amplifying the success of it in the future. But that's where you need to author the story in order to help Brian convert his past experience into future strength and into future resilience.
I have a question for you with all of that being said, because I'm really loving this concept. So we can do this for ourselves as individuals, right? Can you, like as an executive team looking at a future strategy, right? Where there's all kinds of external forces happening and changes, and there's just realities that you're dealing with, and there's futures you're trying to plan for. And can you translate this storytelling, this authoring into the same thing, right? This is where our success has been.
Lori, that was the essence of my company.
Yeah.
That was the essence of my company. Now let me give a couple of examples. When I sit down with the CEO who invites me in order to help him with the change, usually I will be in the legacy business, because if I'm successful, his legacy will be amazing. And I usually starts with, I understand what the strategy is, but I want to talk to Susie from accounting. And he's like, who's Susie from accounting? I said, oh, she's in charge of the strategy execution. And he would say, I never heard about her. I said, yeah, but she's in charge. He said, in what way? I said, in every email that she sends, in every phone call that she takes. Her and the thousands of people underneath, they're in charge of the strategy, not you. So I need you to understand that my whole design started there. And when I would go to Susie from accounting and the thousands of employees, I would actually run a simulation. I'll take the same data that senior management have used, and I ask them to reach conclusions about what they would do. So I would incorporate them into writing the next story. So first and foremost, we do not live in facts. We live in stories. And people need to understand it, and management need to understand it. And it's very difficult for them because their tools are spreadsheets and pie charts and facts. But you know what? Facts do not change people. You want an example? We're about to close this year. On January 1st, tens of millions of Americans are going to go on the scale. They're going to get the data. They're not going to do much with it. Every year, the data does not change behaviors.
They're going to say they're going to do it, Lior.
Correct.
They're going to say it.
Correct. So, Lori, my message to leadership is, and there are chapters in the book about leadership, team performance, exceptional performance, and so on and so forth. My management to them is, your story needs to activate hope and actions, not your facts. And I'll give you an interesting story. I was at the Aria Hotel in Las Vegas preparing for a presentation. The Aria is a major venue and so on. And the CEO, it's a German company, CEO turns to me and says, Lior, remind me, we need to schedule time. I want you to coach me on public speaking because I'm not as effective as you are, and so on and so forth. I said, well, English is not my first language. So if that's what you want to learn, great. And then I said to him, are you serious about that? And he said, absolutely. I said, I'm going to coach you right now, and we're going to try it right now when you go outside. And I said to him, why do you love this company? And there was silence. And he started telling me, and it was really, really emotional story.
Yeah.
He fell in love with it early on. He always wanted to work there. And I said, leave your slides aside. I want you to go there right now with your mic, and I want you to tell them that story. He said, why would they care? I said, you want coaching? I'm coaching you right now without even charging.
Right now.
Right now. Go out there and tell them that story. And you could hear a pin drop. The guy came back with tears. After that, whatever he wanted them to do, they will do. And he asked me, why did it work? I said, because you did not show up as an invincible leader. You showed up as a vulnerable person. He said, but why does it work? I said, because nobody needs to help an invincible leader. If you know everything, what do you want from us?
Right.
But when you show up as a human being, I'll follow you. I'll help you. I'll make it successful for you. But I need to know that you need me. So you cannot put an invincible leadership character out there and expect people to rise up and help you. So I talk about how stories are the glue that activates people because they create hope. Yep. And facts do not create hope.
I love that. Because it's all aligned with the purpose, right?
Yes.
Purpose isn't facts. Purpose is what excites you and lights you up. And if you're going to go through transformation, you have to have hope for that purpose to continue and a plan. Right. You can't just be
absolutely.
hope. You can't just
no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you also need to learn that and I talk about it in the book, your vision cannot be detailed. Your vision needs to be deliberate, but not detailed, because if you're too detailed, you'll miss opportunities. I'll give you a simple example from our world. Salesforce. Most of Salesforce revenue is not from CRM anymore. Did they know that cloud will appear? No. They call themselves Salesforce because they thought that's the biggest vision they can come up with. But most of the people who changed the world did not come with a detailed plan. They came with a directional plan. They were very intentional in making the world a better place. And then they applied it as opportunities showed up.
Yeah, this is good stuff.
I can't. There's so many things, Lior.
I'm frantically taking notes here.
I know. I love the story that you just told. It reminded me, we had a guest a while ago who was a corporate video guy, right? And
I was thinking of him too. Yeah.
Yeah. So Pat Taggart is his name, and he had a very similar approach. Like, he's trying to make corporate videos that don't suck, like corporate videos that move the needle. And what he told a couple of CEOs and senior executives that he was working with was just like what you said. He's like, put the slides down, tell the story.
Yeah.
Like, what do you love about this company? What what gets you out of bed in the morning to do the things that we're trying to do here. People connect to that. They relate to that, right?
Absolutely.
I totally agree with your point. The 40-point detailed plan that you're going to put me, through 127 slides. I'm out, right? I'm out by slide 12.
Absolutely. I finished recently a major corporate event. We actually rented the Atlanta Falcons stadium and brought, hundreds and hundreds of employees and everything else. And I said to the CEO and to the executives, none of you gets to be on stage until I script you and I train you how to speak. And they're like, are you insane? I said, no, you're not going on stage. You're not going on stage. None of you are going to go on stage.
They're like, but Lior, I do this all the time. I'm really good at this.
So, no. So I'll tell you what. And then they said, what do you want us to do that we haven't done before? I said, make them cry.
Oh, yes.
I want them to cry. I want them to cry. I want them to cry. One of them went on stage and told a story how he was a firefighter volunteer and they couldn't save a person and how it devastated him.
Oh.
After he finished this presentation, a couple of employees went to him and said, we have never dared to speak to you because we always feared you.
Yep.
And this is after this story, we will speak to you.
Yep.
And he came to me and said, Lior, I'm sorry, again, you were right. And it just hurt me that you're right all the time. And I said, just take the compliment. You reach a new level. You don't need to be invincible. So I made each and every one of them literally make them cry. Joy of pride, tears of pride, tear of joy, tears of compassion, tears that connects people. And the problem is that many of our leaders are imitating their first manager from 30 years old, from 30 years ago, who told them it's all business, it's not personal. And heck, it's all personal.
It's all personal. We're people.
It's all personal. And I always remind people, you operate based on these cliches. I use this in workshops. If you want to do it right, and they all say, do it yourself. I said, great, you're imitating your 30 years ago manager. You are no longer using Windows 95. Why are you using this operating system called My Manager from 30 years ago?
Yeah. That was similar principle, not make them cry, but stories where executives stand up, the successful top level raised through the company executives who tell stories about their biggest failures when they totally screwed it up, when they completely made a mess of something. And hearing those stories completely changes the story in people's head about who those people are and what kind of permission do I have to not be perfect, right? If you're telling me this story about a disaster that happened to you, then if I make a mistake, I still have hope, right? Yeah. And so I think any of those kinds of showing up as a whole human, right? It makes you relatable. It makes you less intimidating. It makes people want to talk to you because people want to have common ground and they want to relate. So I love that.
Lori, it goes actually beyond that. You're absolutely right, but it goes beyond that because the moment you are not perfect, then my superpower can help you. But if you are perfect, what am I doing here?
Yeah, that's.
It's when I coach executives, here's what, because I understand where they're coming from. I said, look, this is not about becoming vulnerable for the sake of becoming vulnerable. I want you to be very clear about what you're trying to activate and what's the call for action. I don't need you to strip for all your life stories and embarrass yourself deliberately or anything. That's not what it is. Be conscientious about how you use the stories, but for heaven's sake, don't be perfect, because if you're perfect, I have nothing to give to you.
Yep, I love it.
So many things, right? So many things. This concept of vulnerability is central to our book, which is this book right here, You, Me, We, Why We All Need a Friend at Work and How to Show Up as One. courage and vulnerability is the third practice of what we call the ally mindset. And, to your point, Lior, we get to be socialized, especially those of us who came up through the 80s, 90s, and aughts, that being vulnerable is being weak.
Yep.
Right. So we make different choices and we build this facade and we try to show up. I love that you said the old advice is, this is business and not personal. Check your feelings at the door or whatever. Like, this is central to what we believe at SkyTeam. You can't check any of that at the door. You have to show up as a whole person because you are one. And when you are vulnerable and more authentic, that's when the magic starts to happen, right? When you put up the walls and show up in a way that you think is safe, whatever that means, you lengthen the time that it takes for the team, for the group, for the organization to get to the good stuff. Because if you're going to do that, I'm going to do that.
So there is one more dimension, Eric. Let's build up on that. I want you to think about your last flight. On your last flight, you boarded the plane and the flight attendant smiled at you. And then when you deplaned, they also smiled at you. My question to you is, which smile was more authentic? The one when you boarded the plane or the one that you left the plane?
When I'm getting off.
Absolutely. Because the first one was a union negotiated smile. But the one when you're out was from the bottom of my heart, get out of my face.
Get the hell out of here.
Right. And I use this as an example. The best, most important assets that we are trying to activate from employees are actually the ones we cannot control. You cannot control creativity. You cannot control leadership. You cannot control thinking outside of the box. You cannot control smiling. If they all smile because you told them so, it will look so fake to the point that I would rather tell them, please don't do that. Whatever is on your face, please don't do that. And here's what I tell a lot of leaders who are like, I don't know what this employee engagement stuff. When I started my career, if you got a check, you were engaged. If you're not getting a check, you're disengaged. So here's what I tell them. Every employee have a choice to make. They can show up to work and follow your orders, and that will be an average performance.
Mm-hmm.
Or they can activate the assets you cannot control and give you an exceptional performance. This delta is their choice.
Yep.
To be creative is their choice. To lead is their choice. To think outside of the box is their choice. To own the situation and not to hide behind the process, it's their choice. So my question to you is, what KPIs are you trying to make? The exceptional one or the average one? Because the delta here is the story that will mobilize them and activate them to do that.
Yeah.
God, killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. This is such good stuff. I know that we're rounding the corner on the hour here, so I want to make sure that Allison and Ruby have time to ask questions, because I know Ruby has questions and Allison has been checked in and camera on all session. So I'm quite sure that she has something to say too. So I want to open it up. And if nobody has questions, of course, I have more. So, Ruby, Allison, what you got? I'm going to take these spotlights off so that we're all in the room together.
Well, number one, this question's for you, Eric. How quickly can I get this recording? Or I almost wanted to pause after every truth bomb you dropped to let it sink in. Yes. This year has been weird. There's been so much change everywhere. And there's been such a focus on change management, but you have just absolutely blown my mind in the sense that in discussing that change is actually the beginning of things instead of the end. And I have a block on reading nonfiction, so I hadn't come across that just yet. However, you building on that and saying that your purpose continues, that alone, number one, gives people value. What you have, you are not just a number in a large corporation. What you have to contribute, you're here for a reason, and that's your purpose, right? So to remind people of that when things get hard, and we all need to get better at hard lately because it's not going to get any easier.
Yep.
That is just absolutely mind blowing. This isn't actually a question, Lior. I'm just professing the
So I'll give
half
you a
hour
tool.
conversation has had.
So first, thank you, because it helps me obviously to see what resonates with people. One thing, whoever you want to share the recording with, just tell them other companies have gone through this. It's doable. It's beyond doable. I've done 400 of those. I'm a practitioner. I'm not an academic. I'm not writing about something I read. This is what I've done. And here's the one thing. Let's talk about purpose with just one interesting emphasis. So I talk in the book about people visiting a museum. There are different type of visitors. There are people who are just walking around and kind of expecting the pictures to speak to them. There are people who are actually renting those audio guides and they're actually paying attention. And there are those who actually did homework and studied about it before they showed up. What's the difference? The first cohort are people that think that they're just showing up and somehow the museum is going to inspire them. They're very passive.
Yeah.
The last group is saying, I'm here to take as much as possible from it. And my message to people about the topic of purpose, don't expect your leader to give you purpose. You find purpose in the work. You infuse purpose in the work. Nobody's going to give it to you. And I'm going to give you one more example, which is not in the book, but it's in one of my upcoming articles, especially with Gen Z, where everybody's like, I don't know how to manage them and this and this and that. So here's what I tell Gen Z when I speak to them. I said, let's imagine that you are passionate about cooking. You love cooking. Now you have choices. You're very talented. You're very good. If you're going to go to McDonald's, they're not going to let you express yourself. You're going to flip burgers the same exact way. If you're going to go to Olive Gardens, maybe they'll let you change the vinaigrette every other Friday just to try something. Again, not a great expression. You need to find which restaurant is going to allow you to express yourself. So we are starting with you and your talent. Now you have a choice of which stage you want to perform on. But when you come to this company, you are you to the power of the challenge that the company gives you. And you need to decide if you to the power of the stage is going to get a Broadway show out of you or a Cuyahoga Community College Theater Department practice show. But I will not let you go on my stage and perform like Cuyahoga Community College Theater Department show. If you come to my stage, then you absorb that challenge and you say, this is where my talent is going to shine. This is your choice. You're absolutely right. You're talented, but you need to decide where your talent is going to shine, which challenge is going to make them shine. You to the power of the brand of the company.
So I love that so much, because when we have our, engagement survey and debrief, and we take it very seriously, and we try to go beyond just what the charts are saying, because that's limited. That's a starting point for a conversation. What does this actually mean to you? And a lot of what we hear, it's expected, right? It's just bitching. Well, I don't like this, and I don't like this, and I don't like this, and I don't like this. And so, okay. And going beyond that, what's in your control, right? How are you taking responsibility for your own engagement? Because you can't sit around just waiting for somebody to make it awesome for you, right?
That's exactly what I talk about victimhood. They're leading life as victims. They're struggling with change. Now, let me talk to you about employee engagement. I've conducted hundreds and hundreds of them, and I do not subscribe to Gallup's methodology. I can tell you right from the beginning. Our studies have shown a couple of things. Companies who were the top 25 percentile of employee engagement were 3 times more likely to hit the top NPS scores and were 59% more profitable. So I had a formula from the beginning that connects the all 3 components, and I talk about it. But here's the critical piece. What drives engagement? Our studies have shown that it's not that you have a friend here, and it's not that you get better swag here, and it's not that we sponsor pizza for you or whatever. There were 2 questions that were driving performance. I understand the purpose or the impact that I make on my customer, and I have the tools and authority to get the job done. And then when I review those results, I ask managers to go back to the last 90 days of their staff meetings and ask themselves a very simple question. what percentage of that staff meeting was dedicated to talk about the impact that we make on customer lives? And the answer is 0.
0.
0. You know, I have a friend who used to be a monk at a monastery.
Used to be.
Yes. For 10 years, he was a monk at a monastery. Then he moved to work at HR. So I asked him, listen. So I asked him, can you help me understand, compare and contrast? And he said, yes. Actually, I did find some interesting parallels. He said, when I was at the monastery, about 40% of my colleagues believe that they have a divine inspiration, that God speaks to them. He said, now at corporate, it's about 85%. He said, all the managers know all the answers. They never ask questions. They're answers dispensers. So anyway, Ruby, I want to leave some room for you to ask questions if you want to ask a question. But thank you, Allison, for the feedback.
Oh, no, I love this too. I'm in line with you, Allison, just like writing down so many things and just thinking about all the things you said that were really powerful and how they connect to some of the things that we teach. And I just really appreciated from a coaching perspective. I'm a coach. Many of us on this call are. Just this helping people lean into their strengths and really glean out their learnings from what they're experiencing. I just today went through a completion with a coaching client. And we kind of talked about, well, what did you learn in this last year? What are you celebrating in you? What was different for you? What were the gifts that you received from going through this process? What was different about it? And you could see her start to light up. She was like, oh yeah. And she was doing all these things amidst personal challenges as well. And it's like, we just, as a culture, I don't think, slow down to maybe human race, I don't know, slow down to really reflect on what we have learned and really intentionally bring it forward and recognize what the hell just happened.
That's the essence of authoring. That's the essence of authoring. We go through life. We do not author, and therefore we rob ourselves of the tools that's supposed to help us in the next unprecedented event. Yeah. That is exactly the essence of it. This is not about journaling. This is not about coming to terms with your emotions. This is about conversion of past experiences into future strengths and tools.
Wow.
Love it.
I mean, come on. I can already hear myself when this gets released. This episode is a banger.
Yeah.
And one of my favorites from 2024. Lior, tell us, how do we find out more about you? Where do we get the book? Where do we learn about you on the interwebs?
Okay, so the book is available at Amazon and other places, too long of a list to name. LiorArussy.com is where you're going to find my latest articles. There's another one coming up at the Fest Company tomorrow. But you'll find my latest articles and content and everything, and you can connect with me there. LinkedIn, I'm pretty active. And then you'll find me in the traditional Instagram, X, and all the other places. But I would say my website as well as LinkedIn, that's where I'm most active, and you will pick up a lot of new articles and kind of thought-provoking concepts.
I'm in. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Big ups.
Thank you.
All right, let's get into our end of show ritual. We're going to do our funny things, our good feels, and our silly little cocktail, and then it is dinner time, everybody. So, funny things Eric found funny on the internet. This is one I think we can all relate to. Me responding to an urgent email on Monday morning that I definitely saw on Friday at 4 p.m. I got your distress call and I came as quickly as I wanted to. I don't know about the boots and shorts combo there, but I'm gonna let that slide. Sometimes smart devices just serve up things that are funny. This one made me laugh. It says Ancient Aliens, and it's a picture of the Golden Girls.
Golden Girls.
This one is because Ruby and Lori and I are going to a concert next week, and I hope this doesn't happen. This is a photo of Adam Sandler making a face when it's 10 p.m. and you see a third opening band start to set up.
Oh, no.
Lori, talking to you.
Gonna have to have my 5-hour energy shot.
Yes.
This one's for Ruby, and because we're dark a lot during this holiday season, I wanted to get a couple of Christmassy ones in here. Ruby, this is for you. When you've already destroyed the Christmas tree, and now it's time to take down Santa's village.
Evil orange cat.
That looks like Lily when her eyes get all black. I'm like,
See? But my favorite funny thing today is something that I would text to my children. Sorry, Mom, I called you by accident. That's okay. Had you by accident.
Oh, my.
Oh, my.
Today's Good Feel story is about kids doing the right thing by their parents. So, I'm not, putting anything out into the universe here, but here you go.
Finally tonight, buckle up for the trip of a lifetime down memory lane. Here's Steve Hartman on the road.
This was cool.
For Earl Goines and his son Jared, cars have always been their love language.
69 Z28.
Bonding over Bondo and brake pads ever since Jared was a little compact. And through the years, the one thing they've talked about most is the 67 Chevy Camaro Earl used to own.
Anytime that we saw a Camaro, he would definitely bring it up. It'd be a reoccurring theme and a reoccurring story.
I once had a Camaro.
Yes, I had a Camaro.
Beautiful.
Just like that. The joke was, or the way that he just summed it all up, is that I had to sell this car for your diaper money.
Always.
Actually, Earl was only half joking.
You got to build a nursery, find a crib and a cradle, and it was time to, settle down and raise the family,
So it was goodbye hot rod. Hello, lukewarm minivan. Since then, his car dreams have been mostly confined to helping others with their vehicles.
So it's a Nissan Rogue.
He works at O'Reilly Auto Parts in Mesquite, Texas, where he has continued to share that story of the Camaro that got away.
Thanks so much.
Of course, Jared knew his dad never really regretted selling that car, but he still felt like he owed his dad more than he could ever repay. So he went to work.
A car exactly like the one his dad had just didn't exist. So Jared spent 3 years scouring the internet for parts and putting it together piece by piece. Until last month, when he handed over the keys for his dad's 65th birthday.
That is your car. Thanks for the diaper money, Dad.
And he was just overcome. And he wrapped his arms around me. It was the best. It was the best.
He loves me a lot. As much as I love him.
We all give up something to start a family. But if you're lucky and patient, sometimes you can have your Camaro and keep it too. Steve Hartman on the road in Mesquite, Texas.
Restoring our faith in humanity, one story at a time.
That's right.
Today's semi-quarantine cocktail is called 43 Monkeys. It's a riff on the Planet of the Apes cocktail. You're going to need an ounce of lime juice, half ounce of lime juice, a compound in Georgia that breeds monkeys, 1 ounce of orange juice, 43 rhesus macaques, a little pineapple juice. The monkeys escaped. Somebody left the door unlocked, and 43 monkeys exited the facility. A little bit of banana liqueur. 37 of those monkeys have been recovered and fed PB&Js, which apparently they really like. An ounce of spiced black rum. The the spokesperson for the facility said they seem like happy, well-adjusted monkeys after their adventure. A little Trader Vic 151, and I wonder what the hell the other 6 monkeys are up to.
Okay.
Because that scares me just a little bit. With that, thank you for being here today. Thanks to Lior Arussy. This has been, like I said, a banger of a conversation. Thanks to everybody that's checked in and listening. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you in a couple of weeks. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you had a good time and learned a thing or two at today's happy hour, please share it with your friends. If you want to join our tribe, head on over to skyeteam.cloud/TCB or email us at info@skyeteam.com. That's SKYE team.com. Thanks again, and remember, you've always got friends at the Corporate Bartender.